Hey y'all, it's Kobe R. Rice, and I wanted to welcome you guys back to the Be Badass podcast. And this is our first episode of 2018, episode number 5, basically entitled Happy New Year, my 2017 achievements and 2018 goals for the Bohemian Badass. So, as you guys know, I'm Kobe R. Rice, and I have both the Be Badass podcast as well as my own personal updates podcast. So you won't be hearing much about me personally on this podcast like ever. This is actually designed to help you artists and writers and filmmakers, novelists, screenwriters, game designers, creative entrepreneurs, bloggers, etc. out there to find the most helpful resources, inspiration, and education to help you along in your journey to becoming an independent, self sustaining artist or creative. So, in that sort of light, I just wanted to talk a little bit more about what was achieved at the Bohemian Badass as an entity, as a blog, as an infopreneur site and resource last year in 2017, and what I plan on doing for the Bohemian Badass in the coming year. So, as you guys know, if you know anything about the rest of my life, it is pretty insane, pretty packed with me managing a whole bunch of different business brands, also me being a graduate student, me managing a few podcasts, me teaching, me being like still a novel writer and a content creator, so I'm creating content, etc. And as a result, I have to say that the Bohemian Badass and the Be Badass podcast have, and this is completely on me, fallen completely to the wayside since I started developing it in late 2015. And that's not to say that the Bohemian Badass has not made any progress. It certainly has. But I guess I've been indulging in what one would call like a super soft launch of this brand. I sort of told people that I was coming out with the Bohemian Badass brand in 2015. And I did. I got a logo design. I set up the website, bought the domain name. I started importing a lot of blog posts that I felt would be really helpful to the public over to the Bohemian Badass to be restructured and rewritten and then reposted. I started the podcast. I started designing courses and that would help people basically improve their craft as writers or as filmmakers or as bloggers. I started those courses. I set up an entire online school, which has not officially opened yet because I'm still working on the courses for that school. But I basically spent 2015 and 2016 laying out different parts of the framework and the groundwork for the Bohemian Badass. And then I spent maybe like the second half of 2016 and all of 2017 just developing content and developing material that I have not released to you guys yet. So the big thing, actually, before I get into the super roundup for 2017, the big push for 2018 is to just be consistent with at the very least one piece of content. And that's not my only goal at the Bohemian Badass and at the Be Badass podcast, obviously, but it is certainly a main goal, because even if there are certain parts of the Bohemian Badass that are not exactly ready to launch right out the gate, I still feel as though I want to start making that deeper connection with the larger creative community, the larger artistic community, and just start developing the Bohemian Badass brand as a consistent go-to resource for basically most artists who want to create a career and a self-sustaining lifestyle and business based on their art. So that's one of the main pushes for 2018. But before I get too deeply into that, let's just round up really quickly what I actually did for the Bohemian Badass in 2017. And for those of you who are watching the vlog version, you have to excuse me if I'm looking a little bit askance. I'm looking between my camera and my notes. So, just in case you're feeling a little neglected on the vlog, it's not your fault. It's definitely all me. Okay. So in 2017, I only wrote and published one blog post, and that came directly out of my graduate school work, honestly. And I thought it was like a good blog post. It looked into Akira Kurosawa's film Throne of Blood, which is like a really wonderful adaptation of Shakespeare's Macbeth, and is a wonderful sort of film to start looking into if you're a filmmaker or a screenwriter who is specifically interested in adaptations. But that's really the only blog post that I published. It's not really like at all where I want to be in terms of content production, but there it is. Recorded and published only 2 podcasts last year. Again, because I was busy with other things. I did, however, work on and finish the horror screenplay template as well as a survival horror novel template. Now, in many ways, this was a personal endeavor as well as a Bohemian Badass endeavor, because I do eventually want to create a course, or rather a series of courses, on how to write genre-specific novels and genre-specific screenplays and films, etc. Unfortunately, though, with this class, which was an amazing class that I took, from which I derived and developed these 2 templates, they are certainly proprietary, and I just wouldn't feel, not only is it illegal to share the information with people who haven't paid for and taken the course, but it's also just not morally ethical. So as much as I would love to just put these templates up on my website and just give them out to everyone, I can't, unfortunately. I can only use them for my own personal use. However, it has given me a lot of ideas upon which I can build from creating my own templates for my own genre courses. So that's one thing and one skill set that I did develop in 2017 that I do believe is going to contribute greatly to the Bohemian Badass as soon as our school is up and running. I definitely worked on things that you guys can have access to, though. And one of those things is that I worked on a writing the Badass TV series template, which is an entire course and an entire template from literally idea stage all the way to finished product stage for writing, filming, producing, and distributing your very own TV series, independently created TV series, rather. And just as an FYI, the Bohemian Badass as well as the Be Badass podcast, we specialize in independent creation. So you're never really gonna get many details here on how to, quote, break into Hollywood, end quote, because that's not particularly the focus and the point of this entire brand. There are definitely other brands out there that are much more knowledgeable than I am on how to break into the industry by people who are actually in the industry. You should definitely take Stephanie Palmer's professional writers course. You should definitely take any of Corey Mandel's writing courses, because he's a very well-known screenwriter, has done very well for himself. Definitely look into Pilar Alessandra's screenwriting courses and coaching, and she has a wonderful book called The Coffee Break Screenwriter. Definitely check out Jen Grisanti, who is a wonderful script consultant who can really, really help you create the best spec script and pilot script you can if you're entering in the TV and film fellowship contests. And she also has a very strong connection with NBC. So if she really likes you, she will definitely advocate for you. And you can also check out Lee Jessup, who's a wonderful career coach who will help you to literally hone your brand, whatever that is, so that you can better market yourself in the industry. On top of that, there is the Writers Boot Camp, which is a really wonderful, although albeit expensive, but wonderful writing program, which will literally ninja train you to be a Hollywood level screenwriter. Now, this is not to say that I wouldn't take these courses and use these people, but I would not use any of these courses or individuals to break into Hollywood to work for a big studio, unless like an opportunity basically like fell into my lap. And it's nothing against Hollywood at all. I just prefer to own my own space and my own turf and my own intellectual property. So this is not to say that I If somebody approached me and was like, hey, that was a really hot film you did. How about you work for, Fox Searchlight, or you work for Lionsgate on this project? I'm not going to say, no. I'm going to say, okay, guys, like, I'm going to be taking this project on. But I will never at any point in time abandon my goal and my dream and my path as an independent creator, because I believe that having your own thing, having your own intellectual property, having your own company, and basically having your own real estate is super important. So just FYI, when I talk about the templates that I'm developing for you guys, whether it's to create a film trilogy, a novel trilogy, a badass TV series, whatever it is I'm producing at the Bohemian Badass, the Be Badass podcast, or the School for Creatives, is basically geared towards helping you to independently create, produce, distribute, and sell your own work. So just putting that out there as a major caveat. That was a sort of very roundabout way of saying that, but you guys get what I'm trying to say. So I did work on that series, that TV series template. It's coming along extremely well. I really like how it's shaking out, and I actually am using a very well-known popular TV series that I am really in love with, that are also really successful, breaking those TV series down from the pilot all the way through, how the season is set up, all the way through how the entire franchise is set up. And once I have distilled that formula and created templates based on that particular series of ingredients, you guys will have access to that through the Bohemian Badass School for Creatives. So that's something I was working on in 2017, and I will continue to work on this year. I also worked on two bigger brands, course brands that I am trying to release at the Bohemian Badass School for Creatives. One of those brands is the Metaphor Maven brand, which is designed to help you guys improve your wordsmithing techniques. So if you're really wondering how to get metaphors or create metaphors that are like Shakespearean level metaphors, or that are just really super powerful, this is definitely the course brand for you. There are going to be several products offered under that brand, including a larger signature course with several modules to it to help just train you and train your brain in creating metaphors. I'm also putting together a Metaphor Maven Masterclass, which is like a mini version of the signature course in case you just want like a taste of what's being offered. And then there's a Metaphor Maven workbook, which I'm really excited about the workbook actually. So, and I feel like it's really helpful in putting together, helping you to think differently about wordsmithery and especially about putting together metaphors. So that's one of the brands. The other brand that I'm working on that I'm super excited about is the Plot Like a Badass brand. And the Plot Like a Badass brand is actually the first of, I would say, a course tetralogy in helping sci-fi and fantasy writers to create really big, epic worlds and write really wonderful, amazing novel series within these worlds. And the Plot Like a Badass course brand, is the stage one, or I wouldn't say it's the first stage, but it's one of the stages of helping these sci-fi and fantasy writers to write kick-ass, epic sci-fi fantasy novels. So I'm really excited about it. It combines plotting with cinematic storytelling, which is really great and can help people to really shake out the events of their story, especially if they're stuck. But even if you're really good at creating plot, I feel like this is a really great course to take. And so the entire Plot Like a Badass course brand will include another series of products, which includes the signature course, which is again a multi-module course that will take you through each stage of plotting from your idea all the way to your scene design, which is great. Then I'm also working on the Plot Like a Badass nonfiction book. That's something I worked on a lot in 2017 and took up actually one of the grand majority of my time whenever I came and sat down to work on things for the Bohemian Badass. Basically, I was working on the Plot Like a Badass course brand, and specifically I was working on the nonfiction book. So I did that in 2017. I also worked very diligently on the Plot Like a Badass Scrivener template, which you guys are going to love if you have Scrivener. I also am producing PDF and Word templates. So if you don't have Scrivener as a software, you don't have to buy it in order to benefit from the templates I'm producing in the class. You will love the templates. It will make plotting so easy, so step by step, and so methodical. You won't even have to think about it. And then I worked on a smaller sort of, again, taste test for the Plot Like a Badass course brand. And that's the Plot Like a Badass 7-day email course, which will get you kicked off in terms of plotting out an idea, turning it into a log line with a premise, and then figuring out the general shape of your story. So it'll give you a taste, but it won't give you the entire series of what I have to offer. So I worked a lot on that brand last year, as well as the Metaphor Maven brand. I also worked on, I worked on a lot of courses last year. This is probably why it's taken me so long to launch, because I kind of want everything to be perfect before I just, come out. I also worked on the Writers Unblocked pre-writing course, which is a really great course I started developing in 2016, just like pretty much randomly out of the blue, because I wanted to create an introduction to the Metaphor Maven course that I was working on at that time. And it eventually became its own thing. So the Writers Unblocked pre-writing course is basically to help you sketch out all of those ideas in your mind that you have for your novel, but you somehow are still not able to kick off or kickstart your novel on paper. So this is going to help you to crush the hell out of your writer's block, because I give you teeny tiny minuscule tasks that will really help to unlock your creativity, and that will get you writing, but get you writing in a very low stakes, non-stressful way. So, and that's going to be offered for free. So the Metaphor Maven course will be a paid for course. One would have to pay for it. So we'll Plot Like a Badass unless you're in the free component part of it. But the Writers Unblocked course that will help you crush your writer's block is 100% free forever. I have no intention of ever charging for that course, but that really is just to get the most timid writers all the way to the most veteran writers who just have hit a wall. It's just to get them get their ideas out there, get them noodling on some certain things that are floating around in their creative ethers, and to help them just break through their fear and their block. So I worked on that last year, and that was pretty exciting, and I'm actually almost done with that course, so I'm happy with where I am. I also outlined and developed the Creating Badass Characters course. Now, the Creating Badass Characters course is course number 2, right next to Plot Like a Badass, with helping, again, sci-fi and fantasy writers to write the most ass-kicking, epic fantasy and sci-fi ever. And so for me, the four real primary tenets of building a very strong world and a strong plot with a strong cast in an epic sci-fi fantasy context, those are plotting, creating amazing characters, creating an authentic, immersive, imaginative, amazing world. And then if you're interested in taking your world up a notch, being able to create languages for your world. So for me personally, those are the 4 primary pillars of really amazing sci-fi and fantasy that's, again, immersive, that is epic, that feels as though it stands on its own. And so the Creating Badass Characters course is the second pillar of those 4 pillars that I worked on for 2017. And I don't want to rush working through any of these 4 pillars. I want to get these out to you guys, but I don't want to rush it, because once the entire series of courses is done, I really want it to be like a go-to kit for any science fiction, fantasy, or horror writer who is literally just trying to create an epic world and an epic story in that world. And I want it to be, an all inclusive, no holds barred, comprehensive resource where you literally don't have to have any other book. You don't need to have any other course. You just open up the materials from this course every single time you want to create an entirely new world of your own, an entirely new series. So I'm trying to get this out to you guys as quickly as possible, but you please understand that I'm also trying to give it the time that it deserves so that you guys get the quality that you deserve. So just putting that out there. I am working on it. I've been working on that since 2017, and I hope that will be out soon. I also created a quote epic giveaway guide for it was for for New Adult Noir, which is my book blog that is attached to my author brand, Colby R. Rice. But and I put it up there because just business wise, it was just easier to direct authors and my customers to that guide to show them how I hosted and handled my giveaways. But it's actually something that I plan on turning into a mini course, a really small mini course, and not an expensive one either. But I just went through so much trouble to lay out how I run my giveaways step by step, and I'm just like, well, maybe I can turn this into a course to help authors create their own book blogs and run their own giveaways and, build their own brands based on, the knowledge that I've gained. So that epic giveaway guide is essentially the first step to a new course for you guys. And I actually might offer the giveaway guide itself, like the rough draft itself, as a free gift to you guys, but then I'll build the rest of the course off of that and expand it out a little bit, and then that will be available for $10 or whatever. And then finally, which what I worked on in 2017, this thing I'm about to tell you is going to lead us right into 2018. I commissioned the most amazing new logo and brand design for the Bohemian Badass. And if you're actually looking at this vlog version or listening to the podcast and you see the graphics, you might, or if you're even on the website, you might see some smatterings of the new brand that's up. It's gorgeous. It's wonderful. I love it. Compared to the first two iterations, those have nothing on what is going on with the Bohemian Badass's brand now. And so I just want to talk about that for a second. The Bohemian Badass brand, prior to its first iteration, prior to the major rehaul, it was supposed to represent the quote every woman, because each of my subsidiaries for my entire company have avatars. And all of these avatars originally were very cartoony, very cute. Each avatar was of a different race and background. And I enjoyed them, and I really, really liked them a lot because they embodied the diversity, the mission, the femininity, and the womanly power that I really wanted to be exuding from my company, Rebel Ragdoll, and specifically from the Bohemian Badass. But then I realized that in trying to represent the every woman, I was sort of erasing myself out of the company. And I know that sounds a little bit weird to some of you guys, but I think in a strange way, I felt as though if I pretended, or not even pretended, because I wasn't trying to pretend, but if I presented myself as the every woman, then I would bring in every woman. If I presented myself as this crux of intersectionality, then undoubtedly every woman from around the globe who wanted to create a lifestyle-based business and a creative business that was sustainable, obviously, quote unquote, she'd be drawn to Rebel Ragdoll. But the brand in itself, and even across the entire company, in my opinion, lost a lot of its original intent and personality. And specifically, I felt as though I was erasing myself as a Black woman of color, as a Black artist, and as a Black writer. I was erasing myself from my own company. And so because my all of my brands are so personal, I felt as though my former logos were a misrepresentation of who I was in my heart and who I'm here to represent. I am here to represent as many women as possible from as many different backgrounds, races, religions, classes, creeds, walks of life, genders, etc. I am definitely down to support and advocate for those women, but I can do that while also being unapologetically Black and beautiful and melanated and creative. And so that is the kind of spirit that I wanted to be embodied in my company. And so I went forward with the rebrand with that in mind. And not only did I rebrand the Bohemian Badass, but as a side note, I rebranded most of Rebel Ragdoll's current subsidiaries. Rebel Ragdoll Press got a major facelift, and now the logo is sleek, it's sexy, the colors are amazing. The black and red is just wonderful. And like the avatar has like a dystopian gas mask with like an afro, and like there's like blood splatters, and it's great. I know it sounds crazy, but just go to KolbyRRice.com and click on the Rebel Ragdoll tab, and you'll be able to see all the logos for the companies, and they look amazing. Rebel Ragdoll Productions has a gorgeous woman with this flowing hair, and like you can't tell what race she is, but the avatar and the silhouette itself is very Black. And so I really enjoy that. And so she's a part of the logo itself and the actual name, Rebel Ragdoll Productions. You can check that out. And the same thing with Chick Rogue Studios and the other brands that I have been growing under the Rebel Ragdoll franchise. And the Bohemian Badass is no different. And it's actually, like, in my opinion, one of the fiercer brands and logos of all the ones that I'm managing right now. It is this very Black, gorgeous, sexy silhouette with like a white dress on, and she's curvy. And you know, there are no facial features because she is like the Black queen. Like, she is the Black prototype. And she has this gorgeous afro that is comprised of spatters of rainbow color, which is incredible. And then you have the Bohemian Badass logo next to her in, you know, black and pink. So which are my brand colors. And the logo is so fierce and it's so sexy, and it's Black, it's feminine, but it's also very creative. And so this is not to run off anyone. It's not to stereotype or pigeonhole anyone. I just felt as though I needed to bring myself as a woman of color to the forefront and own my brand on all levels. You guys see my face, you hear my voice, you read my words, and once the courses come out at the School for Creatives, you're going to be being taught by me. So why should I make myself invisible when you're seeing me everywhere else in the company? So the company itself, the Bohemian Badass, needed to merge the woman behind the words, behind the microphone, behind the lesson plans with the face of the company. So you guys will be seeing more of my face, but certainly you'll be seeing the Black artist avatar for the Bohemian Badass. And I think that it's gorgeous. My graphic designer on Fiverr did an amazing job doing like the groundwork, and then I added a lot of elements to it that brought more of the Blackness home. Not gonna lie about that. I did edit it myself as well, and I am super proud and super excited. And I feel as though finally at the beginning of 2018, the Bohemian Badass is starting to represent who I am and what I'm here to do and how I'm here to help you guys. And so in that light, I want to talk more about what I plan on doing for 2018, because the first quarter for the Bohemian Badass is going to be rather slow. I'm just going to let you guys know right now. I'm already, sitting here and recording this podcast on literally January 25th. And this is I'm going to back post this and backdate it to January 3rd. And there will be more podcasts coming out so that you guys will have a weekly installment. So I actually owe you guys 3 podcasts after this one, which are going to really help you to kick off your year right. But in addition to updating the podcast itself, the Bohemian Badass in general is just going to be undergoing a facelift. Not in terms of redoing the brand, but I do want to improve the website. I do need to bring the new logo and the new brand into our online graphics, into our social media, marketing graphics and graphic tiles, just updating everything, updating my Facebook groups with all the new logos, redesigning the structure of the blog post graphs, the Instagram post graphics, the blog post graphics and the Instagram post graphics. So, and also I need to update the actual podcast cover photo for the Be Badass podcast with the new brand and with the new logo. So basically this month, February and March are going to be about giving the Bohemian Badass the facelift that it deserves, while also making sure that I am coming to the microphone, to the keyboard, and to, the book writing, to the school for creatives with as much consistency as possible. And that is the goal. Basically, the goal is to give the Bohemian Badass the facelift, give the podcast the facelift on all fronts, record and post weekly podcasts, write and post weekly blog posts, and then on top of that, obviously work on my coursework. The final sort of thing that I want to work on for the first quarter while we're regaining ourselves and our momentum is that I really do want to start building up a mailing list with more of you guys. So for more of you artists and writers who want to get a bi-weekly inspiration boost and education boost, I want to develop my reader base, my subscriber base, my creative badass base, and be communicating with you guys via a newsletter every 2 weeks like clockwork. So that is also the goal, is to just basically do the facelift and start being consistent and reaching out to more and more people who are interested in what the Bohemian Badass has to offer. So, you just FYI, like those are the major pushes for the first quarter. So we're not going to be releasing any courses. No major, summits or events will be happening at the Bohemian Badass. This is just us coming into the world brand new, repackaged, and just ready to basically build our brand with consistency and high quality, and with a consistent brand across all social media platforms, because otherwise they're going to be like, oh my gosh, like, okay, I see the Bohemian Badass looks like this over here, but then you guys are looking a little crazy over here. So that's what we're going to be doing. And that's the first quarter goal. The second quarter, all the way to the end of the year, basically is just to, again, maintain a weekly schedule of podcasts, blog posts, a bi-weekly schedule of newsletters reaching our readers, developing a stronger, larger reader and subscriber base. And I also would like to host a couple of giveaways for artists, like doing, just like a couple of lovely gift baskets, book bundles or course bundles for those of you who really want to up your craft game or your marketing game, just things that are going to help you guys out as much as possible with getting your own creative careers up and running. So I'm thinking about doing a couple of those probably sometime after July. Don't look for it any earlier than that. And then my other goal for 2018 is to release at least one of those course brands that I was telling you guys about. And that will probably be the Plot Like a Badass course brand. If I'm able to get the Metaphor Maven course brand out as well, that's just a bonus. But in terms of actually focusing and trying to just keep things simple and straightforward, I'm going to focus on creating the Plot Like a Badass course brand, because I feel as though you guys will benefit the most from that course at this point in time. And actually, a few of you have reached out and asked me when that is finally going to be available. The answer is this year. Okay, so that is the update, guys. Happy New Year. Thank you so much for hanging in there with me as I bumped and stumbled and, tumbled and ambled my way from 2015 all the way to, late 2015 all the way to now. And I think this year is finally the year for the Bohemian Badass to really serve you the content that you're looking for and the content that you deserve, because we're ready. We have our new face on, we have our new dress on, we have our goals, we have our mission, and we're just ready to serve and we're ready to show up. So thank you guys so much for supporting us, for being there for us. And we look forward to, and I look forward to getting those podcasts out to you guys, getting those blog posts and those tutorials out there to you guys, and just sharing my knowledge with as many of you as possible. And just keep this last thing in mind before I sign off. The Bohemian Badass is called The Bohemian Badass for a reason. It's because my perspective is specifically my perspective. I can't represent all Bohemian badasses. I can only respect my own specific one. So I don't want you guys to take my perspective as gospel. You should certainly be paying attention to other bloggers, other writers, other successful artists to see what they're doing. I am only the expert in my particular process, and I will be sharing my journey with you as appropriate when I make those certain milestones that you guys are interested in. Like if I hit the USA Today bestseller list this year, then I'm going to create, a course or a series of blog posts that will explain that process so that it can help you guys reach that as well. But just realize that this is, again, only my journey. So I don't want you guys to think that following every single step I do is going to get you the same results, or that I'm the only person who is, a master in certain areas. I am only the master of what Colby does, of what I do. So just keep that in mind, that this is just a perspective. And the reason why I charge for my courses, though, is because it just takes time, money, and labor. And even though it's my perspective, it's still one that I like to really hone and package beautifully and put together in a way that is very easily digestible and can be followed. So that does cost time, and my time is valuable. So I'm sorry for those of you who are expecting the entire school to be free. It won't be free, but certain courses will be free, and the podcast will always be free, as well as the blog posts. They will also always be free, and I'll always have some version of free gifts and free giveaways available on the website. So there is something for everyone, no matter how serious or casual you are with your artistic goals and endeavors, and I hope that you enjoy it. All right, so thanks so much for joining me this time, guys. I will talk to you next week. Bye.